The champagne glass trembled in Kellan Brooks' manicured hand as he raised it above the crowded living room. I watched from the kitchen doorway, nursing my third beer and counting the ways this night could get worse. 37 guests packed into our modest two-story home, most of them Lara's corporate friends who looked at me like I was the help. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kellan's voice boomed across the room, cutting through the chatter. His silver hair caught the overhead light just right, probably practiced in mirrors. "I'd like to propose a toast to our beautiful birthday girl, Lara Farrow." My wife beamed from her spot near the fireplace, wearing that red dress I'd bought her last Christmas. The one she said was too expensive when I gave it to her, but apparently perfect for her boss's attention tonight. "Lara," Kellan continued, his eyes locked on hers with an intimacy that made my stomach churn. "You've brought such joy and expertise to our team. In fact, I'll be honest with everyone here. If it weren't for me, Lara Farrow would never know what a proper partner truly is." The room erupted in polite laughter and applause. Lara's cheeks flushed pink, but she didn't look embarrassed. She looked pleased, proud even. Her mother, Patricia, nodded approvingly from the couch, shooting me a glance that said everything about what she thought of her daughter's proper partner comment. I pulled out my phone and typed a simple message to Pike. "Send me the video." The response came back in seconds. "You sure about this, Wes? No going back." My thumb hovered over the keyboard for exactly 2 seconds before I typed, "Send it now." While Kellan continued his toast about recognizing true talent and rewarding excellence, I connected my phone to the house speaker system, the same system Lara had insisted we install for entertaining. How thoughtful of her. "Which is why I believe Lara deserves everything she's worked so hard for," Kellan finished, raising his glass higher. "To Lara." "To Lara," the room echoed. I pressed play. The first sound was Lara's laugh, crystal clear through the speakers. But this wasn't the polite laugh she'd been using all evening. This was the throaty, intimate laugh I hadn't heard in months. "Kellan, stop it," her recorded voice giggled. "What if Wes finds out?" The room went quiet. Not party quiet, but funeral quiet. Every conversation stopped mid-sentence. Every glass froze halfway to lips. Kellan's voice came through the speakers next. "Your husband? That computer nerd? He's too busy fixing printers to notice what's happening in his own house." I watched Lara's face drain of color. She looked around frantically, trying to locate the source of the sound, her eyes finally landing on me in the doorway. I raised my beer in a mock toast. "Besides," Kellan's recorded voice continued, "after tonight, we won't have to worry about him much longer. The promotion comes with a transfer to Seattle, remember? You'll be 3,000 miles away from all this suburban mediocrity." "Should we delete the footage from tonight?" Lara's voice asked. "The security camera in your office caught everything." "Why? No one checks those files except me. And even if they did, what are they going to see? A boss celebrating his employees' success?" The recording continued for another 30 seconds, filled with whispered plans and intimate laughter, before I finally stopped it. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. Lara's best friend Celia was the first to speak. That has to be fake. Deep fake technology, right? You can make anyone say anything these days." Several guests nodded eagerly, grasping for any explanation that didn't involve their hostess being exposed as an adulteress at her own birthday party. "Artificial intelligence," Patricia added quickly. "Wesley probably hired someone to create this fabrication." I walked into the living room, my work boots loud against the hardwood floor. "You're right, Patricia. Technology is amazing these days. For instance, did you know that most people use the same password for everything? Email, bank accounts, company systems." Lara's eyes widened. "Wesley, don't—" "Lara 123, I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "That's been your password for everything since college, even your laptop." I pulled out a manila folder I'd been keeping behind the kitchen counter. "See, the thing about having a husband who works in IT consulting is that he knows how to recover deleted files, and how to access email accounts, and how to trace financial transactions." My hands were steady as I opened the folder. 3 months of planning had led to this moment, and I wasn't going to waste it. "For example," I continued, pulling out the first printout, "here's an email from Lara to Kellan discussing the transfer of $12,000 from our joint savings account to what she calls our future fund. That's our money, Kellan, mine and hers, being used to rent you that downtown condo where you two have been meeting every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 6 months. Kellan finally found his voice. "This is harassment, Farrow. I'll have you arrested." "For what? Reading my own wife's emails? Accessing my own bank account?" I laughed, and it felt good. "Pike, You still here?" My old friend stepped forward from the back of the crowd. Pike Morrison had been a cop for 20 years before opening the Timberline Bar downtown. He'd also been quietly documenting Lara and Kellan's affair for the past 2 months. "Right here, Wes. Tell these nice people about the security footage from the parking garage at Kellan's building. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories." Pike grinned. "Well, it's funny you mention that. The building manager, Tom Richards, is a regular at my bar. Real chatty guy, especially after a few beers. Turns out their security system backs up everything to the cloud automatically, even when certain executives think they're deleting files." The color drained from Kellan's face. "You can't prove anything." "Actually," a new voice said from the front door, "we can." Tom Richards stepped into the room, holding a tablet. I'd texted him 20 minutes ago, knowing he'd want to see this. "Mr. Brooks," Tom said, "I've been meaning to talk to you about some irregularities in our security logs. Seems like someone with administrative access has been deleting footage from the executive floor. Company policy requires us to investigate any unauthorized data deletion." He held up the tablet, showing a freeze frame of Lara and Kellan in a passionate embrace outside his office door. "This is from last Tuesday at 2:47 p.m. According to our records, Mrs. Farrow signed in as a client meeting that lasted 3 hours. The room erupted. Guests started whispering, pulling out phones, and backing toward the door. Patricia looked like she'd swallowed a lemon, while Lara's father just stared at his daughter with disappointment. "Everyone out," Lara finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please, just everyone leave." But I wasn't finished. "Actually, folks, stick around for one more minute. I've got something special planned." I walked to the front window and pulled back the curtains. 3 police cars were parked outside, their red and blue lights painting the neighborhood in alternating colors. See, the thing about embezzlement is that it's a felony, and when you use company resources to facilitate an affair and then try to cover it up by deleting security footage, that becomes corporate fraud. And when you plan to leave the state with stolen money, well, that's just good old-fashioned theft. Detective Maria Santos walked through the front door, badge visible on her belt. I'd gone to high school with Maria, and she'd been very interested in the evidence I'd compiled over the past 3 months. "Mrs. Farrow, Mr. Brooks, we need to have a conversation." The party was definitely over. I woke up alone for the first time in 8 years, and it felt like Christmas morning. Lara had spent the night at her parents' house after the police finished their questioning. No arrests yet, but Detective Santos had made it clear that charges were coming. The house felt different without her presence. Cleaner somehow, less cluttered with her constant anxiety and social climbing ambitions. I made coffee in my favorite mug, the one she'd always complained was too big and unprofessional looking, and sat at the kitchen table to read the morning news on my tablet. My phone buzzed with a text from Pike. "Timberline opens at 11. First beer's on me." Another text, this one from my brother Danny in Portland. "Holy crap, Wes. Celia just called Jennifer. Is it true about Lara and her boss?" Word was spreading fast. In a city of 40,000 people, news like this traveled at light speed, especially when it involved someone as socially prominent as Lara. She'd spent years building her reputation as the perfect corporate wife, the woman who had it all together. Last night had shattered that image completely. The doorbell rang at 9:30. I opened it to find Patricia standing on my porch, her silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. She wore her usual armor of expensive clothes and disapproving expressions. "Wesley, we need to talk." "Good morning to you too, Patricia. Coffee?" She pushed past me into the living room, where evidence of last night's disaster still lingered. Empty glasses, crumpled napkins, and the lingering scent of expensive perfume and cheap embarrassment. "This has gone far enough," she said without preamble. "Whatever grievances you have with Lara, destroying her career isn't the answer." I poured myself another cup of coffee and leaned against the kitchen counter. "Her career? Patricia, your daughter has been stealing money from our joint account to fund an affair with her married boss. She's been planning to leave me and move across the country without so much as a conversation, and you're worried about her career?" Marriages have problems, Wesley. Mature adults work through them privately, not by humiliating each other in front of friends and family. Mature adults don't have affairs. Patricia's jaw tightened. Lara made a mistake, but she's young, she's ambitious, and she got caught up in something bigger than herself. Kellan Brooks is a very persuasive man. So this is his fault? I'm saying that good women sometimes make poor choices when they are not getting what they need at home. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I'd been expecting this conversation for months, even before I discovered the affair. Patricia had never thought I was good enough for her daughter. I was too blue-collar, too content with my small IT consulting business, too willing to live in a modest house instead of climbing the social ladder. What exactly wasn't I providing at home, Patricia? The joint bank account she raided, the house I bought and maintain, the freedom to pursue her career while I handled most of the household responsibilities? Security, Wesley. A woman like Lara needs to know her future is secure. She needs a partner who can match her ambition and her potential. A partner like Kellan Brooks. A partner who understands that success requires sacrifice and commitment. I set down my coffee cup and looked directly at her. You mean a partner who's willing to steal from his own company and abandon his wife and kids for a younger woman? Patricia's composure cracked slightly. That's not... The situation is more complicated than you're making it. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty simple. Your daughter chose a man who promised her a bigger life, and she was willing to betray everyone who loved her to get it, including you. What do you mean? I walked to the living room and picked up another folder from the coffee table. Patricia's eyes followed my movements nervously. See, Patricia, when I was going through Lara's emails, I found some interesting correspondence with a real estate agent in Seattle. Turns out she wasn't just planning to move for Kellan's job. She was planning to disappear completely. New city, new identity, new life, no forwarding address, no contact information for family. I opened the folder and pulled out a printed email. Here's her response to the realtor's question about emergency contacts. No family contacts necessary. This is a fresh start situation. Patricia's face went pale. She wouldn't. She would, and she did. You were going to wake up one morning and find out your daughter had vanished across the country with a man you've never met, taking money that didn't belong to her. The silence stretched between us. Patricia sank onto the couch, her perfect posture finally cracking. I don't understand, she whispered. We gave her everything, the best schools, the best opportunities. You gave her the belief that she deserved better than what she had, no matter who got hurt in the process. My phone buzzed with another text, this one from Lara. We need to talk. Meet me at Riverside Park at noon. Come alone. I showed the message to Patricia. Looks like your daughter wants to have that mature adult conversation after all. Patricia stood up, smoothing her skirt. Wesley, whatever happens between you and Lara, please remember that she's still my child. I love her, even if I don't understand her choices. I know you do. But love isn't enough to fix this, Patricia. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. After she left, I spent the next hour preparing for my meeting with Lara. I had a feeling she wasn't planning to apologize or ask for forgiveness. Women like Lara didn't admit defeat easily. They regrouped, strategized, and came back swinging. I was looking forward to it. Riverside Park sat empty under the gray October sky, the kind of weather that made everything look washed out and tired. I arrived 15 minutes early and chose a bench with a clear view of all the entrances. Old habits from my brief stint in security work, back when I thought I might make a career out of protecting other people's secrets. Lara appeared at exactly noon, walking across the parking lot in her black wool coat and leather boots. Even in crisis, she looked put together, professional. It was one of the things that had attracted me to her 8 years ago, that ability to maintain composure under pressure. Now it just seemed calculating. She sat down on the opposite end of the bench, leaving 3 feet of space between us. Close enough to talk, far enough to run, if necessary. You look tired, she said. I slept great, actually. First good night's sleep I've had in months. She flinched at that, but recovered quickly. Wesley, we need to discuss how we're going to handle this situation. Handle it? Lara, there's nothing to handle. You had an affair, you stole money, you planned to abandon your marriage and disappear across the country. The handling part is over. It's not that simple. Sure it is. You made choices, and now you're facing consequences. That's how life works for most people. She turned to face me directly, and I saw something I hadn't expected. Desperation. For all her composure, Lara was scared. The police are talking about pressing charges. Kellan's been suspended from his job pending investigation. My mother says you have emails proving I was planning to leave without telling anyone. All true. Wesley, please. I made mistakes, but I never meant for things to go this far. How far did you mean for them to go? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the empty playground across the park. I don't know. I felt trapped. Like my life was getting smaller every year instead of bigger. Kellan offered me something different. He offered you someone else's life. His wife's life, specifically. His marriage was already over. According to him. According to the divorce papers he filed last month. That was news to me, but I didn't let it show. So what's your plan now, Lara? Kellan's suspended, you're facing criminal charges, and your reputation is destroyed. Still think he's offering you a better life? Her composure finally cracked. I don't have a plan, okay? I thought I did, but everything's falling apart. Kellan won't return my calls, my parents are barely speaking to me, and half the city thinks I'm a criminal. You are a criminal. You stole $12,000 from our joint account. That money was for our future. Whose future? Yours and Kellan's? Because I wasn't invited to Seattle, remember? She stood up and paced to the edge of the sidewalk, her back to me. What do you want, Wesley? You've already destroyed everything. What more could you possibly want? I want you to admit what you did, not the sanitized version where you were confused or trapped. I want you to admit that you chose to betray our marriage because you thought you found something better. Fine. Yes. I had an affair with Kellan because he made me feel important and successful and desired. I took money from our account because I was planning to start a new life with him. I was going to leave you without explanation because I thought it would be easier than having this conversation. Are you happy now? Getting there, she whirled around. You're enjoying this. Actually, I am. For 8 years, I've watched you climb over everyone around you to get what you wanted. Your friends, your family, me. You used people and discarded them when they stopped being useful. Now you're finally facing someone who won't be used. I never used you. I laughed. Lara, I paid for your MBA. I supported you through 3 job changes. I handled all the household responsibilities so you could focus on your career. I even bought you that red dress you wore to seduce your boss at your own birthday party. If that's not being used, what is? She sat back down, deflated. So what happens now? Now you face the consequences of your choices. The police will decide whether to file charges. Kellan's company will decide whether to fire him. The divorce court will decide how to divide our assets. Divorce? Did you think we were going to work this out? Have couples counseling and renew our vows? I thought, maybe if we could get past the anger. There's nothing to get past, Lara. You made your choice when you decided Kellan Brooks was a better partner than me. You made it again when you stole our money, and you made it a 3rd time when you planned to disappear without a word. Those weren't mistakes or moments of weakness. They were deliberate decisions. My phone buzzed with a text from Pike. Turn on Channel 8, now. I pulled up the local news app and found the story immediately. Local executives suspended in embezzlement investigation. Kellan's corporate headshot filled the screen above a caption that read, Brooks Industries CEO places VP on administrative leave pending fraud investigation. I showed Lara the screen. Her face went white. It's really over, isn't it? She whispered. It was over the moment you chose him over me. This is just the paperwork. She stood up again, pulling her coat tighter around herself. I need to call my lawyer. Good idea. You're going to need one. As she walked away, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Not happiness, exactly, but the calm satisfaction of a job completed. Lara had made her choices, and now she would live with them. My phone rang. Pike's name appeared on the screen. You see the news? He asked. Just watched Lara's reaction to it. How'd she take it? About as well as you'd expect. What's the word around town? Oh, brother, the timberline's been packed since we opened. Everyone wants to know the details. Celia's been holding court at table 6, telling anyone who'll listen that she always suspected something was going on. Celia knew? More than knew. Turns out she's got some stories of her own about our boy Kellan. Apparently this isn't his first workplace romance. Interesting. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I'll keep your stool warm. The timberline buzzed with the kind of energy usually reserved for playoff games or natural disasters. Every table was occupied. Conversations hummed with excitement, and Pike worked the bar with the efficiency of a man who knew he was witnessing history. I found Celia exactly where Pike had described, surrounded by a half-circle of eager listeners at table 6. She looked up when I approached, her expression shifting from animated storytelling to guilty recognition. Wesley, I was just telling everyone what you know about Kellan Brooks? The table went quiet. 6 faces turned toward me with the kind of anticipation usually reserved for car accidents. Sit down, I said, pulling up a chair. I'd like to hear this too. Celia glanced around the table nervously. Maybe we should talk privately. Why? Everyone here is going to know the details eventually. Might as well get the story straight from the source. She took a long sip of her wine before speaking. Kellan has a pattern. This thing with Lara wasn't his first affair, and it probably wouldn't have been his last. How do you know? Because I work in HR, Wesley. I see the complaints that get filed and mysteriously disappear. I see the transfers and the sudden resignations. I see the women who won't make eye contact in the elevator after spending time in Kellan's office. One of the listeners, a woman I recognized from Lara's birthday party, leaned forward. Are you saying he's done this before? I'm saying that in the 3 years I've worked at Brooks Industries, 4 women have left the company under suspicious circumstances. All of them were young, ambitious, and had worked closely with Kellan on special projects. Special projects, I repeated. That's what he called them. Private consulting work that required after-hours meetings and out-of-town conferences. Always with the same type of woman, married, vulnerable, looking for advancement. Pike appeared beside our table with a fresh beer for me. Sounds like our boy Kellan had a system. He did, and it worked until he picked the wrong target. What made Lara the wrong target? Celia looked directly at me. Because she was married to someone who actually paid attention. The compliment felt backhanded, but I accepted it. So you knew about the affair from the beginning? I suspected it after their first business trip to Portland. Lara came back different, more confident, more secretive. She started dressing differently, staying late at the office, taking calls she wouldn't discuss. And you didn't warn me? Celia's face flushed. Wesley, I thought about it, but Lara was my friend, and I didn't have proof. Just suspicions. But you have proof now? She nodded slowly. Kellan made me process the expense reports for their trips. Hotel rooms, dinners, rental cars, all charged to the company as business expenses. But I could see the patterns. Same hotels, same restaurants, same timing. That's fraud. That's what I told the police this morning. The table erupted in excited whispers. This was better than television. You talked to the police? Detective Santos called me at 8 a.m. She wanted to know about the company's expense reporting procedures and whether I'd noticed any irregularities in Kellan's accounts. And I told her everything. The fake business trips, the deleted security footage, the expense reports that didn't match actual business activities. I also told her about the other women. Pike grinned. Sounds like Kellan's having a very bad day. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Kellan. We need to talk. Meet me at the storage facility on Industrial Road in 1 hour. Come alone. I showed the message to Pike, who frowned. That doesn't sound like a friendly conversation. Probably not. You want backup? Actually, yes, but stay out of sight unless things get ugly. Celia grabbed my arm. Wesley, be careful. Kellan's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. Don't worry. I've been planning for this conversation since the day I found out about the affair. I finished my beer and stood up. The table watched me with the kind of fascination usually reserved for gladiators entering the arena. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, raising my empty bottle in a mock toast, the evening's entertainment is just getting started. Industrial Road stretched along the outskirts of town like a concrete scar lined with warehouses, auto shops, and self-storage facilities that never seemed to have customers. The address Kellan had texted led to Secure Space Storage, a collection of beige metal buildings surrounded by chain-link fence and security cameras. I parked near the entrance and texted Pike. I'm here. Stay back until I signal. Kellan's BMW sat in the far corner of the lot, its silver paint dulled by the afternoon overcast. He'd chosen Unit 47B, according to his follow-up text, which sat in the back row of buildings where the security lighting was sparse and the camera coverage had blind spots. I found him standing beside the open roll-up door of the storage unit, his usually perfect hair disheveled and his expensive suit wrinkled. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in 24 hours. Wesley, thanks for coming. Kellan, you look terrible. He attempted a laugh that came out more like a cough. It's been a challenging day. The storage unit behind him contained the kind of items people hide when they're planning to disappear, boxes labeled important documents, a small safe, and several pieces of expensive luggage. A folding table held a laptop computer and stacks of papers. Planning a trip? Planning for contingencies. You understand contingencies, don't you, Wesley, being in the consulting business? I understand that when someone asks me to meet them at a storage facility, they're usually planning something stupid. Kellan stepped closer, and I caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with desperation sweat. I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. This situation has gotten out of hand. The police investigation, the media attention, the damage to both our reputations. It doesn't have to continue, doesn't it? I'm prepared to make this worth your while, financially speaking. He gestured toward the open storage unit. That safe contains $50,000 in cash, clean money from a legitimate investment account. It's yours if you're willing to make this all go away. Make what go away? The police complaint, the fraud allegations, the public humiliation, all of it. I walked closer to the storage unit. pretending to examine its contents. The laptop screen showed what appeared to be financial records, and the papers looked like legal documents. $50,000 to forgive my wife's affair and your embezzlement of company funds? To recognize that mistakes were made on all sides and move forward like mature adults. What about Lara? What about her? Is she part of this deal? Do I get my wife back along with the money? Kellan's composure slipped slightly. Lara and our relationship has become complicated by recent events. She needs time to sort through her priorities. Translation: You're abandoning her now that the situation has gotten messy. I'm being realistic about our options. Lara made choices that have consequences. I can't fix those consequences, but I can minimize the damage to everyone involved. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recording app, making sure Kellan could see the screen. Say that again about Lara making choices with consequences. His eyes widened. You're recording this? I'm documenting your attempt to bribe me into dropping criminal charges against you. This isn't a bribe. It's a settlement offer. $50,000 to make fraud allegations disappear sounds like a bribe to me. Kellan's face flushed red. You self-righteous little man. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? I have connections in this city that you can't imagine. I can make your life very difficult. More difficult than discovering my wife's affair at her birthday party? That was never supposed to happen. The plan was for Lara to ask for a divorce quietly, amicably. You forced our hand by playing that recording. So, this is my fault? You could have handled this privately, like a gentleman. Instead, you chose public humiliation and legal warfare. I stopped the recording and put my phone away. Kellan, I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. He crossed his arms, trying to regain his executive composure. You seduced my wife with promises of a better life. You convinced her to steal money from our joint account. You used company resources to facilitate your affair. You planned to take her across the country and abandon your own family. And now that it's all fallen apart, you want to pay me to pretend none of it happened. I'm offering you a way out of this mess. I don't want a way out. I want you to face the consequences of your actions, just like Lara is facing hers. Kellan's mask finally dropped completely. You pathetic little man. Do you think this is over? Do you think you've won something? I think I've exposed you for what you really are. And what's that? A predator who uses his position to manipulate vulnerable women, and a coward who abandons them when things get difficult. He took a step toward me, his hands clenched into fists. For a moment, I thought he might actually try to hit me. Instead, he turned and slammed his palm against the metal door of the storage unit. This isn't finished, Wesley. Yes, it is. I walked back toward my truck, pulling out my phone to text Pike. All clear, but stick around for the show. As I drove away, I saw Kellan frantically loading boxes into his BMW. By tomorrow, he'd probably be gone, leaving Lara to face the consequences alone, which was exactly what men like Kellan Brooks always did. 3 days later, Detective Santos called with news I'd been expecting. Kellan Brooks had disappeared. His BMW was found at the Portland airport, but security footage showed him boarding a flight to Miami under his own name. From there, the trail went cold. What about the charges? I asked. We'll file them anyway. Interstate flight to avoid prosecution just makes it worse for him when we catch up. And we will catch up? And Lara? She's cooperating fully. Her lawyer worked out a plea agreement this morning. Restitution, community service, probation, no jail time if she testifies against Brooks when we find him. I hung up and looked around the house that had been my prison for the past year. Without Lara's constant anxiety and social ambitions filling every corner, it felt spacious and peaceful. I'd already started the divorce proceedings, and my lawyer expected everything to be finalized within 6 months. My phone rang. Lara's name appeared on the screen. Wesley, I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I need to tell you something. I'm listening. Kellan's gone. He left yesterday without saying goodbye, without explaining anything. The police say he's probably in South America by now. I heard. I feel so stupid. 3 months ago, I thought I was in love with a man who was going to give me everything I wanted. Now I realize he was just using me, and I let him destroy my marriage, my career, and my relationship with my family. What do you want me to say, Lara? I want you to know that I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught, but sorry for what I did. Sorry for betraying you and throwing away 8 years of marriage for a fantasy. The apology sounded genuine, but it was 8 months too late. I appreciate you saying that. Is there any chance, could we maybe try counseling? I know I don't deserve it, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. I walked to the front window and looked out at the neighborhood where we'd planned to raise children and grow old together. Those plans had died the moment she chose Kellan Brooks over me. Lara, some things can't be fixed. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. So that's it? 8 years of marriage and you're just walking away? I'm not the one who walked away. You did that when you decided I wasn't good enough for the life you wanted. She was quiet for a long moment. What happens now? Now you figure out how to live with the consequences of your choices, just like I'm figuring out how to live with mine. What consequences do you have? You're the victim in all this. My consequence is learning that the woman I loved and trusted for 8 years was capable of betraying me without hesitation. That's something I'll carry for the rest of my life. After I hung up, I poured myself a glass of whiskey and sat on the back porch to watch the sunset. For the first time in months, the future felt like something I could control. My phone buzzed with a text from Pike. Timberline's having a new beginnings party tonight. You should come. I texted back, what's the occasion? Celia got promoted to interim VP at Brooks Industries. Apparently the board was impressed with her cooperation in the investigation. That made me smile. Sometimes the good guys actually won. I'll be there in an hour. As I got ready to leave, I caught sight of myself in the bathroom mirror. I looked different somehow, lighter. The constant tension I'd carried for months was gone, replaced by something I hadn't felt in a long time, hope. The Timberline was packed when I arrived, filled with the kind of celebratory energy that comes from witnessing justice served. Celia held court at the bar, accepting congratulations and buying rounds for anyone who wanted to hear her story. Wesley, she called when she saw me. Come here, I want to buy you a drink. I made my way through the crowd to where she stood, surrounded by friends and coworkers. Congratulations on the promotion. Congratulations on your freedom, she replied, raising her glass. To new beginnings and second chances. To justice served, I countered. We clinked glasses, and I realized that for the first time in months, I was genuinely happy. Not relieved, not satisfied, but actually happy. Pike appeared beside us with a fresh beer. So what's next for Wesley Farrow? I'm thinking about expanding the business, maybe hiring some employees, taking on bigger clients. Sounds like a plan. What about you, Celia? Ready to clean up Brooks Industries? She grinned. Oh, I've got plans. Starting with a complete review of all expense reports and security procedures. No more special projects without proper oversight. And no more predators using their positions to manipulate employees? Not on my watch. As the evening wore on, I found myself surrounded by friends and neighbors who wanted to hear the whole story. I told it honestly, without embellishment or self-pity. Just the facts of what had happened and how I'd chosen to respond. Around midnight, as the crowd began to thin, Pike pulled me aside. You know, Wes, I've been thinking about what you said that first night, about how some people think they can use others without consequences. What about it? I think you proved them wrong. I looked around the bar at the faces of people who'd supported me through the worst period of my life. Friends who'd helped me gather evidence, neighbors who'd offered encouragement, and even strangers who'd simply refused to let injustice go unchallenged. We proved them wrong, I corrected. This wasn't a one-man operation. Pike raised his glass one final time. To friends who have your back when the chips are down. To consequences that actually matter. As I drove home through the quiet streets of my small city, I realized that Kellan Brooks had been right about one thing. This wasn't over. But not in the way he'd meant it. This was the beginning of something better. Something honest and real, and built on a foundation that couldn't be shaken by lies or betrayal, or the selfish ambitions of people who thought they deserved more than they'd earned. There, I parked in my driveway and looked up at the house that was now truly mine. Tomorrow, I'd start planning the renovations I'd been putting off for years. Next week, I'd call that potential client in Boston who'd been interested in my services. And someday, when I was ready, I'd find someone who understood that real partnership meant facing life together, not using each other as stepping stones to something better. But tonight, I was content to be alone with the satisfaction of a job well done and the knowledge that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys really do win. The toast was over. The tape had done its work, and the trap had caught exactly what it was designed to catch. Justice served cold, with a side of consequences that would last a lifetime.